The views, ideas, and content of WellSeekers and their guests are their own opinions, and you should always seek additional professional help around any of the issues discussed here on WellSeekers.
Hello and welcome to WellSeekers. I'm your host, Lucia, and we are so honored that you have joined us again for episode 2 of this series on mindfulness. This is really dedicated to mindfulness in today's world, in 2021, and as we head into 2022, how we can take the sage advice about mindfulness and what it means to be mindful and mix it with some of the emerging information, cutting edge research that we have, which is one of the things we love to do here at WellSeekers, right? WellSeekers, if you're joining us for the first time, is all about giving you the keys to rise, to come back, and to thrive in today's complicated world. And we all know how complicated our world is today. I like to say, and if you've joined us before in the show, you know that I say that it's for people that have lost the keys. Maybe your parents forgot to give you your keys, or maybe you just want to find a new set of keys, a new set of ideas and solutions to help you find your story of well in this complicated world. We talked last time. If you haven't heard the episode, I so encourage you to go back. The conversation was a powerful one about the power of mindfulness and the power of meditation. We also broke down what it was. There's so much confusion, right? Meditation and mindfulness have become these buzzwords almost. So people almost scroll past it when they see it, like, yeah, I know about mindfulness, I know about meditation. And I always say, let's talk about it then, right? What do you know? Tell me what mindfulness is, right? And usually people get it confused with meditation. Mindfulness is different than meditation. Then I'll say, tell me about meditation, right? Because meditation comes in a lot of different forms. People, and it's through no fault of their own, right? There's this sort of one singular image of mindfulness, one singular image of meditation, and that's it. And so if people aren't interested in sitting there with their eyes closed on a yoga mat, I personally love it, but we'll talk about that later. I haven't always loved it. I had to take steps, and so many other people have to take steps in different directions to get to where they find a mindfulness practice or a meditation practice, right? So last episode, we talked a lot about that, why it's important. On this episode, like all episodes, we're going to give you a story, a really good story. Not only my own story, but our guests always have the most powerful, encouraging stories. But we're also focusing a lot on the solution, on the tools. This episode, we're going to be talking about a behavioral tool that can actually help you meet your goals of where you want to be with mindfulness, with meditation, and quite frankly, even if you're not interested in mindfulness or meditation, this is a great episode for you to learn about behavioral techniques so that whatever your change is, especially as we head into 2022, whether you want to lose weight, which is of course a big one, which we could have a whole show about, and we're going to in 2022. That's on our slate to talk about. But whatever your goal is for 2022, today's show is going to help you get there, not just for mindfulness and meditation, but wherever your journey is going to take you at the end of this year and into the new year. I think it's super important to talk about before we get to our guests, why we need a plan, right? There was this great quote that I found about, it's not about the plan, right? Because I could tell you all sorts of plans I had and still have, right? It's about the planning, because the planning is the journey. The planning is what's going to get you to the accomplishment, to the goal, to the to-do list item, right? I have lists. Actually, if you looked around me right now, I've got like 7 lists. But what I don't have under all of these items, things I want to accomplish, which I actually should, and we're going to talk about it in Lucia's list, other tools for 2022, but is how am I going to get there, right? If the first thing on my list, and I'm just being honest, is to edit a WellSeekers video, or we have someone who edits, shout out to the editor of WellSeekers, but to help edit this WellSeekers interview, review it and give suggestions. How am I going to do that if my weekend's completely full, right? Like, what's the plan to get there? And it seems really small, but it's super important. And you've heard that a lot, but how can we in this environment, right, in such an overwhelming, busy, complicated world, get to where we need to be? And it's tools like today's guests are a part of. We're going to be talking to, we'll give him a little intro now since I mentioned it. We're going to be talking to Sean Greenspan. Sean is the head of enterprise business in the Americas for an app called Fabulous. If you haven't heard of this app, I was so impressed by it when I started using it for my own personal planning and my own personal goals. Such strong evidence-based behavioral strategy methods involved and incorporated in this app. Just to geek out on why you should. It's just not this like random app that you should download. There's so much science, so much research behind how it can help you meet your goals. So he's going to come on, talk a little bit about what the app does, but then just in general, how you can meet your goals, whether you have the app or not. Before we talk about why plans succeed, I want to talk a little bit about why plans fail, right? Sometimes it's unwillingness. Where are you? And there's something called the stages of change, right? So where are you in your stage of change? Are you really ready to dive into this? Do you need a little bit more time? Do you need to contemplate it more, right? So some of it is sort of not being ready to adapt or change. Sometimes it's just not really being on board with the plan, right? Like you've gotten the plan, you've gotten all the things laid out, and then you're like, you know what? I actually don't like this plan that I laid out. And some of that is just going back and retooling and relooking and getting honest with yourself of what you like and you don't like, right? Part of it too is setting realistic goals. If, as we go into the new year, I'm just going to use weight because I know that it's on so many people's minds. It shouldn't be always. I like to think of it as health goals, not weight goals. But if we look at it as a weight goal, right? Or even as a health goal, I want to lose 50 pounds, but you really don't have 50 pounds to lose. That's unrealistic. Or, you know what? I want to get in shape. I'm going to go to the gym 4 times a day for the next month, right? Which are sometimes people do, right? Like that seems like an intense amount, right? But that's an unrealistic goal, especially if you're starting from nothing to be at the gym 4 times a day. Even 4 days a week, that's a lot to go from nothing to 4 days a week. So plans are important because they help you create focus. They help you reduce risk. They help you improve your day-to-day decision making, right? And they help you make those choices. Is this in my plan? Is this not in my plan? But the biggest question I always get is, well, how do I stick to my plan? And that's why today's show is so important. And that's why this guest is so important. And I have to say, I've been a lover of this app for quite some time, just a personal user. They're not being paid, or I'm not being paid for them to be here. I literally reached out to them and they were kind enough and gracious enough, and we're so grateful that they sent Sean to come talk to us. And they gave us this time to help you find a way to better meet your goals. Again, I don't think the new year, I feel like when we're right in the middle of the holidays, which we are right now is a great time to use behavioral strategies and techniques. Why put it off? Use it right now when you need it most, when you're struggling, right, with certain situations that you're going to be in, or family, right? This is the time, I feel like, even before you get to 2022, to start focusing on what you want and how to get there. Sean Greenspan from Fabulous is going to be here in just a moment to help you and me get there with a little bit more ease. So we'll be right back on WellSeekers.
You're listening to WellSeekers, a show where the journey is just as important as the destination.
Welcome back to WellSeekers, and we are so honored to have our guest this week, Sean Greenspan. Sean is the head of the enterprise business in the Americas for Fabulous, He graduated from South Carolina's Business School cum laude as a student athlete, and he believes in the power of holistic wellness, which is one of the reasons we are so excited to have him on the show. Sean, welcome to WellSeekers.
Thank you very much. We are excited to be here at Fabulous, and I've been looking forward to this all week. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, Sean. Before we dive in, since you were a student athlete, I was a D1 athlete. What sport did you play?
I played a little bit of football, but not very long before I was cut, and then turned the student athlete into actually being a practice player on the basketball team, which was quite enjoyable. I actually really enjoyed that, but it was fun to have, an outlet outside of, schoolwork, which I enjoyed.
Absolutely. And what division school did you go to?
Division I was University of South Carolina.
Okay. So you went to University of South Carolina. Oh yeah. Obviously. I just said that.
Yeah. And how about yourself?
For undergrad, I went to the University of New Hampshire and I rode. But
awesome.
Yeah,
beautiful school.
Beautiful school. And anyone that's played D1 knows it's literally a job at that point. So I love the idea of a practice player.
I really enjoyed it too.
Yeah. So Sean, we've been doing a series on mindfulness and how in our current environment, it's so important, why it's so important, and ways to get there when we're so inundated to be distracted all the time. We love taking the holistic approach at WellSeekers. And one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on, and Fabulous, and our producers were excited as well, is because how simple and user-friendly your programs are and how it truly can create change from a scientific perspective. And I say that as a professional too. So for those that don't know, can you tell us about the backstory of how Fabulous came to be and what it does exactly?
Definitely. So Fabulous was found at Duke University Center for Advanced Hindsight with our advisor, who's still our current advisor, Dan Ariely. He's a thought leader in the space. And we were actually in a challenge to help people make change. So, of course, that change was centered around health and wellness. But as you could, health and wellness very loosely, right? Because if we're going to try to make change, we want it to be positive, of course. But really the goal, so the Center for Advanced Hindsight, which is just a funny name, it's a little play on words there, is the behavioral science school. And behavioral science is the study of how humans behave in a complex environment where context matters. And what we mean there is, we actually react to our environment a lot more than we proactively act. That's kind of scary that our environment's dictating a little bit of what we're doing. But, it's true. And it's one of those things that we all go through, right? So it's not something to necessarily avoid, but what we're trying to do at Fabulous is help people build the best habits. So when you are reacting and you're a little more in your subconscious, you're a little more habitual, a little less mindful. Those habits that you're kind of naturally doing are healthy, right? So maybe when you sit down for dinner, instead of cracking a beer or a soda, you're grabbing, a glass of water. Maybe right when you wake up, instead of just naturally grabbing your phone and checking email or checking social media, you're grabbing a glass of water and picking up a book, or, just those things that we kind of are doing, without really thinking about. We want those to propel you towards your goals. We built out Fabulous. So really it's at the point where, you can pick from a wide variety of goals. So we're not trying to make everyone have the same habits, but if your subconscious, if your habits can be driving you towards, something that's good for you, then imagine the time that you are mindful and you are extremely conscious. That's generally when we're, highly creative. That's generally when we're in the state of flow, right? People generally don't have trouble doing productive things during that time, but it's the after dinner, you hop on the couch, you flip on the TV, and you don't even realize 4 episodes of something goes by, and there goes your evening, right? And that's what we're really trying to solve there.
So, Sean, I'd love to get into the how, because that's probably one of the questions I get asked the most is, why is behavior change so difficult? And we were talking about it a little bit before you came on. Can you explain to people, if you know, and I'm sort of putting you on the spot because I know we didn't chat about this before, why do you feel like behavior change is so hard from a scientific perspective? And how does the Fabulous app help with that?
Absolutely. So the reason behavioral change is so hard is because, you've probably heard, like, we're creatures of habit. People don't like change. People don't like leaving their comfort zone, right? So there's actually a saying out there I like: neurons that fire together wire together. And what that really means is, right, like that. if you're forcing something, right, you can make neurons fire together. So here's an example. I like to take runs. So after I run, the fact that I feel more energy, I feel clear, I'm in a good mood, my blood's pumping, that's all true. And if I focus on that, I run and I'm focusing on that. Maybe it's forced for the first few weeks, but those neurons will start to wire together. So it's easier to think that naturally. And what happens with people is, this is why, like, getting in a rut of complaining can become, really negative. Because if I do take those runs and instead I'm just thinking about how my legs are tired and, I'm exhausted, and I could have spent that time working and all this stuff, your brain will start to, if you keep thinking that, your brain's going to say, okay, this is like probably what I should think. So, let's wire in that direction. So when you start to do something, to get back to your question, when you start to do anything, right, if it's negative, you're actually setting yourself up to do that more frequently, right? If you're sleeping in, if you're deciding to eat that unhealthy food, if you're ducking out of work early, or probably what most people are dealing with, if you're choosing to prioritize work over, wellness, you will start to build that habit subconsciously, and that gets you further away from changing that habit. So it's like momentum, right? That's what we're dealing with. Is your momentums generally take you one way or the other. So we're trying to help people take baby steps at Fabulous towards the right direction, because really that we just want to be the Kickstarter. At some point you'll just kind of feel it kick in, and you'll start building these great habits.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons that I was so excited about having you on. One of the questions I also get asked a lot is, well, what if I hate meditating? What if I hate changing this behavior, right? Like, how do I actually start doing it? And this app, because I have spent some time on it and in it, is that Kickstarter, right? I meditate. I love meditating, but I didn't always love meditating, right? I had to start somewhere to have that change. So tell us a little bit about, and I love how the line on Instagram, and we're going to put all their links below so you can check it out, but the build healthy habits using our little app, right? I think it describes the app so well that you slowly start those behavior changes. So tell us a little bit about how the app walks you through doing that.
Definitely. And, let's use meditating as an example, because, I think you said, like, people hate meditation, or you hated meditation. And it's funny because with meditation specifically, right, like feeling that feeling of like, I want to get up, like I want to stop meditating, like maybe you're anxious about getting back to work or whatever it is. Actually feeling that and consciously deciding to just sit through it, that's kind of, what meditating is. So if anyone aspiring to meditate more, just keep pushing through it. But the way that Fabulous really does it is you can go on a journey within the app, or you can go on a challenge. So the difference is, a challenge might be, hey, I'm trying to build the one habit of meditation, when a journey might be, I'm trying to increase my ability to focus and increase my mental fitness. And along that journey, we're going to give you several challenges that help you build several habits that if you build these 4 or 5 habits, you will achieve the goal of increasing your mental fitness. It's really how you want to use it. Some people, maybe they know they want to meditate and they just need Fabulous to help them do it. Or some people might have a goal of having higher energy levels or increasing your mental fitness. And, Fabulous will say, okay, let's stack these challenges together and help you execute. But ultimately, it's a challenge, right? It's a challenge where the first thing we're going to do is educate you, right? So if it's about meditation, well, you need to be fully 100% committed that meditation is the answer. And the reason you need to is, when we all are going through something difficult, we start asking ourselves why we're doing something. And when you're facing adversity, if you have to ask yourself why you're doing this, or you're second guessing it, it's going to be very easy to say like, well, this isn't even that important. I could be working, right? I could be reading. I could be doing this. So the first thing is education. That's a big step. And we do that through like little videos and audio clips in the app. And they're short, right? It could be 30 seconds, 15 seconds in some cases. The next thing is going to be helping you set up your environment for success and putting like a little plan around it. So before we ask you, we're not going to say, hey, now that you've learned about meditation, we educated you, now go meditate, right? That doesn't really help.
No,
because
if it helps, I'll be meditating right now.
Yeah. So what we'll do is say, okay, like set up an environment in your house that is conducive for meditating. So for me, it's literally just a corner of my living room where I have a little cushion, I have a candle, and I have a little speaker to play my meditation, right? So just those 3 things. It's kind of a visual reminder. I know that that's my meditation corner, right? So the first is education. The next is set up your environment. A really simple way to think about setting up your environment is we ask people to drink water in the morning on one of our journeys. Well, then put water by your bedside, right? So when you wake up, there's water right there. You want to make the ideal behavior easy. The next step is just about doing it and tracking it, right? So we'll send reminders through the app, but ultimately you need to, at some point, do it. So Fabulous is going to remind you. Fabulous is going to give you a little like one-liner inspiration. Maybe if you didn't do it yesterday, it's like, hey, today's the day you start your streak, right? Just something to motivate you, and then check it off, because, tracking is really important as well. But we don't want to hide the fact that at some point you have to take responsibility. And then lastly is celebrating. And this is where the neurons that fire together, wire together comes in. Because after you meditate, if you take 5 seconds to take a deep breath and just be like, wow, like, I just committed 10 minutes to myself. Maybe I don't feel the effects now, but I know I'm going to feel the effects. Like I am a little calmer. I'm proud of myself, right? That takes 5 seconds. Well, that good, warm feeling you get inside, that is what your brain's going to think like, oh, when I meditate, I get that good feeling. And you do have to force it in the beginning. But the hope is that all of these things, the visual cues, the warm, fuzzy feeling you're creating, all these things become natural. And you're naturally just know, okay, cool. I finished work for the day. I go meditate, or I wake up, I go meditate, right? And it becomes a habit.
Mm. And I know we're talking about meditation because our series is on mindfulness, but it's not just meditating, right? That's one of the reasons I love this app, is that your goals can be specific to you.
Definitely. I think that's to toot Fabulous's horn. That's actually, well, I should say that's why I started using Fabulous before I worked here, was because I wanted to do a lot of things like that I had no idea how to do. Like I wanted to start practicing, like journaling daily. And like, there's not really an app for journaling. I mean, I'm sure there's journaling apps, but not to like teach you how to get into the habit. I was exercising, but I wasn't, eating right. When I started using Fabulous, I was kind of coming out of college and eating like a college student. Mm-hmm. And, I was looking for these different things, and Fabulous really can help you in all these different ways. And what I love about it is we have challenges that are as simple as drinking a glass of water in the morning, taking a 5-minute walk, a 1-minute stretch throughout the workday, very basic stuff, all the way to bringing Stoic philosophy into decision making in your life and breaking addictions and things like this. So, that's what I love is hopefully, it's intended to be a instrument that you use forever versus like a tool you just pick up once in a while.
And it is highly, highly personalized, like you said. And that is about the journey, right? Because we talk about the journey a lot here at WellSeekers. There is no wrong place to be on your journey. It's just meeting yourself where you are. And I feel like this app, more than others that I've been on, does that. It meets people where they're at and actually helps walk through the scientific aspects of change to get you to where you want to be, wherever that is, whether it's a glass of water a day more, which is a big deal. Any change, if you study the mind, is a big deal to make. So I feel like wherever you are in your journey, this app meets you there. Does that make sense, Sean?
Yeah, it really does. It's we actually like internally at Fabulous, a lot of people practice stoicism, and there's some of that in the app. That's a very stoic mindset, is that we don't like, if you put stress on yourself to be at the end right now for all of your goals, that's going to do more harm than good. Like, we're just at a point in time. And as long as you're on the journey, as long as you're on the bus, right? And you're trying to go in the right direction, it really doesn't matter where you're at. Just, meet yourself where you are and go from there.
Absolutely. Sean, I know you mentioned it before, but because we love hearing people's personal journeys with wellness, if you're willing to share, can you tell us a little bit about how Fabulous has impacted your own life? Because it sounds like you were a user before you actually even worked for the app. Yeah,
I was. And I would love to, because I personally think, people like hearing stories. So I was working in a corporate company, an outstanding company. Actually, I really loved it. The company was growing, and I started seeing people that were like a little bit ahead of me, and tech from a corporate standpoint, right, more successful, right? They were in higher roles, and I'm like, cool. Like, let me study what they're doing. And I started like looking at these people, and everyone was maybe dealing with health issues or overweight or stressed all the time. And I was like, wow, like, I need to avoid that. If that's what most people on my route are experiencing, I need to get ahead of that, right? Like, I don't want to be arrogant and think, oh, that's not going to happen to me, right? Because that's when it happens to you. So I started saying, okay, well, I'm going to practice mindfulness. I'm going to meditate. Maybe I'd meditate for a few days. I'll say, cool, now I'm going to start reading too. And then, of course, I'd stop meditating. And then, because I picked up one habit and I'd drop another, I would start writing and journaling and working on what I call like secret projects, just like stuff in your personal life. And anytime I like picked up one habit, there goes another. And, I started looking for tools and came across Fabulous. And what I love about Fabulous is it breaks things down for you so easily. So, it talks about the importance of a morning routine and stacking habits, right? And if you're really looking to build the most important habits in your day, for most, it's easiest to put that in your morning routine, right? Before your day gets in your way, get that out of the way. Not only do you get it done first, but you also have a calmness that you're carrying the rest of the day because your priorities are taken care of. So where I used Fabulous for the first 2.5, 3 years of using it, I only focused on a morning routine. And that might seem like a little to some people, but to me, I built out a fairly robust morning routine that now includes exercising, a breathing, exercise that I love, some mindfulness time, some journaling, 15 minutes of talking to a family member, cooking a healthy breakfast, and a little stretch. It does take a little bit of time. Again, like for me, this was my priority. So, woke up a little earlier, and instead of us just naturally thinking, oh, we're up, like, let's just start working earlier. Like, I really prioritize that. And now, like, the feeling I get, like, I want to go to bed. I am so excited for my morning routine. And that time is carved out for me. And that energy and that focus that's created in the morning is being carried with me throughout the day. I'm trying to give more respect to Fabulous here than me, because I've relied so heavily on the tool. But it is shocking how much focusing on that morning routine, every single day, just kept me grounded. Of course, I've tried to expand out into like other areas, but for me, Fabulous helped me craft a morning routine that has become automatic now. And that's what I'd like to thank the app for.
It's so interesting because, well, two things stood out. One, just that you said, well, it may not seem like much. I feel like that sounds like a huge change, Sean, from where you started to add all of those elements into your morning routine. I know that sounds like a lot for some people, but if you use this app, you don't have to add all those things in, right? Even one of those things feels like it could be incredibly beneficial. I love that you gave your morning purpose, because so many people talk about dreading their mornings. And when you enter it with that purposeness and that consciousness, right? Choosing those behaviors that actually make you feel better, there's nothing that can match that feeling, right? To be excited to go to bed so that you can wake up, that doesn't sound small at all. That sounds like a complete life shift, right? From the work you've done with Fabulous. That is an enormous feat from an app, which is why I really appreciate the work that you're doing.
I appreciate, you kind of saying that, and you're right. It's like, I didn't want that to seem daunting. The one thing we ask every Fabulous user start with is drinking water in the morning. Mm-hmm. Everyone wakes up dehydrated, can benefit from drinking water in the morning. Doesn't matter your goals. It's almost entirely universal. I don't want to say it's for everyone, but it's pretty close. I can't tell you how many we have 25 million users. We get people every day that like, wow, I didn't realize by setting a goal of drinking water in the morning and waking up and achieving that goal, that just gives me a little spark. We hear from people. It's a little mindfulness time. Like, hey, I'm going to just sit here and drink this water. It's relaxing. You hit that goal, then you feel energized after. But you kind of want to pat yourself on the back. You're up for 60 seconds and you already have something you could pat yourself on the back for. And that is just the way the brain works. And you're already in this, I set a goal, I achieve it. Then, maybe you choose a little healthier breakfast option because you're already thinking about caring for yourself. And it is just the smallest thing. Even if you just add, a 5-minute walk in the morning, things like that are life-changing, in themselves, but also in their residual effects.
Sean, for those that are listening and maybe they're still a little trepidatious, what would you say to them about trying Fabulous?
I would say that you deserve it, right? You deserve to take a moment to download an app. We have a free trial. Maybe you get your business to sponsor. We work with businesses. But you deserve to commit to yourself, for a week, a month, something, use a tool that's going to help you and just see what the effects are, because it becomes something that integrates with your life. And I'm not just talking about fabulous. I'm talking about better habits, right? I think people are always concerned, right? Going back to what we said in the beginning, people are comfortable in their routines and people are concerned about losing something they have. And really, you want to like architect your life and fill your life with these good habits that are going to take you towards your goals. Even if it's something so small, just, pick up the app for Fabulous. I think it's a good place to start, right? It has something for just about everybody. Pick up the app and just give it a go. And I think, you'll be, satisfied.
So Sean, I know a little bit about the story because we were talking before, but for everyone listening, can you tell us how you actually started working at Fabulous?
Yeah, I'd love to. As I mentioned, I came across the app and I started, enjoying it. And what do you do when you enjoy something? You tell people about it. It's called social currency. We study it at Fabulous now. It was just something that I benefit from. So I had friends. I remember Caroline and Walter and John and Ryan, like these guys at my company. I'm like, hey, you guys need to, check out this app. And we started using it. We went on some some challenges together. And I reached out to Sammy, our co-founder and CEO. And I was like, hey, do you have some sort of package for business? I love what you're doing. I'd like to work with you. And I did mention that, like, I want to work with you, like help market it or something. And he was like, I think he was thinking like I was trying to see if that's like a business that they had. And they're like, no, but I'd love to hear what you have to say. And I was like, oh, they don't? Like, I would love to talk to the founder of Fabulous. So we spoke, and we just kind of came to terms with Fabulous for Work is what we have now would be a great way to serve people even more. Because that's what it's about. It's how can you best serve people? And we found at Fabulous that the number one complaint was, hey, I want to build these new habits, but work is not allowing me, right? I'm busy with work. I got all this stuff going on. Like, I can't. And, that's really how we started. And ever since, the last few years, we've been growing the team a little, and we've been working on meeting with other businesses and implementing Fabulous to the entire company. If you're in a company, if you're in a leadership role and you want to get it to your team or human resources, or if you're in the company and you think your company would love it, we'd love to hear from you. We give companies, trials, and some of the results that we see when people's work-life balance is just outstanding. And it's really great to see.
I feel like that is one of the hardest barriers to crack. And we did an episode earlier on about it pertaining to mindfulness. And when people go to work and it's the opposite of health, right? How do you maintain those health strategies? And I feel like this is bridging the gap in such an easy and accessible way, is what I'm hearing from you, Sean.
I really think so. Yeah.
Yeah. If people want to reach out, find out more for their business, we're going to have all of the links to the app, to your Instagram, which also in and of itself, just following them on Instagram, so much good information, helpful information. How else could they reach you, Sean, if they want to find out more, especially for the workplace?
Yeah, thanks for asking. You can go to our website, thefabulous.co, and /work if you're interested about work. Or, hey, you can reach out to me directly, Sean, Sean, @thefabulous.co. Please say that where you came across us. I'd love to hear that you're a listener of this podcast. So thank you, for asking.
Sean Greenspan, he's the head of the enterprise businesses in the Americas for Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us today on WellSeekers.
Thank you for having me.
Today's lifestyle demands the best in wireless, and with Pulse Cellular, you have the best options available. Switch to Pulse Cellular for unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data, coast to coast with no contracts, no credit checks, and no overage fees. One line for $65 or 4 lines for just $45 each, including hotspot, Wi-Fi calling, and 50 gigs per line. And for all you travelers, we got you covered in Canada and Mexico. Plus, text and data in over 210 countries worldwide, all with the best phones or bring your own. That's pretty awesome. Get the best user experience on mobile at pulsecellular.com.
Thanks for being part of the Seekerhood. We couldn't do this without you. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to WellSeekers. Thanks so much again to Sean Greenspan for joining us and taking the time to talk with us here at WellSeekers. We're so honored to have you. And thanks for sharing your personal story. Everyone here knows that stories are such a huge part of connection, of power, and of healing, and of getting those keys that we're talking about. We get them from learning from one another, whether it's from our personal experience or our professional experience or research knowledge. It's sharing that information and having these conversations that truly drives us forward individually, as a community, and as a world. So thanks so much to Sean for being on the show today. Before we let you go, I want to tell you about three things that came on my radar that I feel like are really pertinent to today's topic, and they are going to be today's Lucia's list. Those things are self-care, mindfulness, right? Since we're talking in the spirit of mindfulness, but truly these touch any goal. They're planners. I know some people love apps. I love apps. That's sort of the emerging and the new. Some people, though, are back old school like me, where we like to write things out in journals. I think everyone likes to write things out. And to me, I like creating journals, and I like the aesthetic of journals. So there's 3 journals today that I have on Lucia's list that help with both mindfulness, with planning, like we talked about, really strong behavioral techniques, and also are just really good and have evidence-based methods baked into these journals. So the first one is one that I actually do use. It's called the Self-Care Planner, and we'll link to it below. Ironically, the other one is called the Self-Care Planner too. One is an actual company and one is just a self-care planner. So this is number 1 and 2, but I like them both for different reasons. They both have strong strategies. They both incorporate evidence-based methods. They both have affirmations, room for gratitudes, and room for you to sort of look at your whole holistic health, not just your mental health, but how's your emotional health doing? How's your personal growth doing? How's your career doing? How's your family doing, right? All these areas that are so important. And every day when we're in our heads, trying to keep track of not only how we're doing in the moment, but where we're headed in the future, right? What's going to happen? We're going to just lose it all, right? That's where anxiety comes from. That's where this rumination comes from. So sometimes just getting it down on paper and seeing where the gaps are, that's what I love about this journal. It helps me visually place things. So I'm like, oh, well, that's why I'm exhausted. I haven't slept in 5 days, right? Like seeing this down on paper always helps me. So these 2 journals, if you like one, you may not like the aesthetic of the other, and vice versa. Really powerful self-care tools. Number 3 on the list, although it may feel like number 2, is something called the Mind Journal. I've actually used this journal. Even though it's specifically a journal for men, I wanted to try it out. There's a lot of reasons this is on the list. 1, I just like the tools, the techniques, the behavioral strategies behind it. But the second reason is, I don't know if this is a larger conversation about mental health and men, right? It's talked about semi-infrequently, but I think it's a known thing in the community that it's hard because mainly cultural and society reasons for men to ask for help sometimes. For them to try to get in touch with their emotions requires them oftentimes to deconstruct the message that they've gotten, forget about just in like community, family, just from our world, right? Of what a man, quote unquote, should be and what a man should do and how a man should feel, or more importantly, and most frequently, how they should not feel, right? So oftentimes with men, it's deconstructing a lot of societal, cultural thoughts about what a man is, looking at that and seeing what they want to take with them and hold on to, and what they want to let go of. So that is my Lucia's list for today. Again, thank you so much to Sean Greenspan for being with us. And as always, thank you so much to you, to our listeners, to anyone that's watching this, to everyone that's a part of the show. We so value you. We know that you can spend your time in so many different places. And we're honored that you choose to spend it with us. So from all of us here at WellSeekers, we'll see you soon.
How would you like to join the conversation? Email us anytime at hello@wellseekers.com.